Great. Thanks. Thanks everyone for joining today as we kick off the virtual Leadership ITE class of 2024 sessions. As this program has gone through a few iterations, we found that meeting a little bit after we're in DC to go through the project topics that we've been really improving the engagement from members of ITE with the projects and really have created better projects. So thanks everyone for calling in. I'm really looking forward to you or your engagement in this process. We'll start in just a minute or two with the presentations from each of the 5 teams. I'll introduce the teams. They'll introduce their topic. They have 5 minutes to go through a brief presentation to introduce their ideas. And then we'll leave 10 minutes open for questions and comments and thoughts. So based on that, we'll try to kick it off with some questions, but as they're going through their presentations, please think of questions. You can start typing them in the chat before they're complete. Anna Maria and Beth and I will be monitoring the chat as it goes to make sure we're bringing up questions, but feel free to throw your questions in the chat or raise your hand at the end and we'll call on you and start a conversation. Any questions from the group before we get started? Great. So we'll jump right into team number 1, In the Right Mind. If you want to go ahead and pull up your screen and get started.
You can see my slides, right?
Yes, and
Yep.
one note just before we get started, I should just mention, if you're not presenting, please turn your camera off. We'll turn cameras back on during the question and answer session, but just the team who's presenting will have their cameras on for the first few minutes. Go ahead, Teresa.
Sarah, do you want the rest of my team to have their cameras on during this point, or just turn them on for the questions at the end?
Whole team during the presentation, please.
Thank you. All right, so I'm Teresa Rolfs. Our team is In the Right Mind. And even though I now have Baby Shark stuck in my head, we're going to try to talk about a very serious topic, which is mental health. As I mentioned, I'm Teresa. Our other team members, as you can see here, include Ashley, Serini, Chris, and Shraddha. And this topic about mental health was inspired by a plenary session that I attended at TRB a couple of weeks ago, in which they were talking about a mental health crisis and very high suicide rates, specifically in the construction industry. I found it to be really a very moving and sobering presentation, a very important topic, one that I don't think is getting a lot of attention, really in general, but in specific, I haven't seen a lot of attention paid to this in ITE. And so through this, we would like to bring attention and awareness to this topic to ITE, to ITE's member agencies, and individuals. Some of the statistics specifically around the construction industry is that you're more likely to die by suicide. Well, I guess this first one is for everybody in the US. In the US, you're more likely to die by suicide than by an automobile accident or homicide. And then specific to the construction industry, you're 4 times greater than the national average. Excuse me. The construction industry has a suicide rate 4 times greater than the national average and 5 times greater than that of all other construction fatalities combined. So this is a major problem. After some preliminary research, we did find that the mental health crisis in this country affects all industries. It is not limited to construction. Some recent studies show that 78% of US workers reported at least one symptom of a mental health condition. 84% of people said that their workplace conditions had contributed to at least one mental health challenge. And 81% of workers reported that they will be looking for workplaces that support mental health in the future. And now we understand that this is a very large topic, and there's a number of different ways that we could approach this. And so one of the things that we're hoping from today is to get some input from you all sharks on which aspects of this would be the most useful to ITE. Now, in general, our purpose for this is to generate awareness and reduce the stigma related to mental health. Some different ways that we might approach that. How can ITE and its members support the transportation and construction industry in improving mental health and reducing suicide rates? How can employers support mental health of their staff? And how can ITE support mental health of their members? How do conditions in the workplace contribute to mental health, either positively or negatively? And how does mental health impact employee satisfaction, burnout, and retention rates?
Yeah, and so when we're thinking about our end deliverables or what we can put out to the ITE membership, we were thinking of two different items. One would be kind of a quick bite document that summarizes our research and insights that we've gained throughout the project. And then the other deliverable we were thinking about is putting together a presentation that we can put out to membership that can be put on by a wide variety of folks to help get awareness out there at district or section meetings, covering a similar type of information from the quick bites, such as our research and insights. And with that, we'll take your input and questions.
Things in the right mind. So we saw some data from the construction industry specifically. Is there any that you've come across just in the last, week and a half that talked kind of about the design industry planning, other than just construction?
I'll quickly say one sentence. I think that we did read something about blue collar and white collar in the construction and transportation industry, which had a survey, or sorry, not a survey, but like a literature review of how it impacts different industries. I think they have typically divided it with desk job versus on-site job in the transportation construction industry. Srini was about to say something.
We did not get a chance to look at other industries yet, but we did look at least the material that was provided at the TRB that Teresa attended. We looked at the papers that were put together. There's a decent amount of literature that was provided there. So our job is to continue to as a starting point, to look at what else is out there and what are the different aspects. How do the different literature review covers different aspects of this issue. So we haven't had a chance to do that yet, but that's our goal, first goal.
Hey, Teresa, in the chat, I don't know if you can see, can you please put up the slide again of the second to last slide, I think it was, of what your action items are?
As you're pulling that up from Peter, I really appreciate the team addressing mental health. The construction industry sees this, but the public agencies do too, with staff that are on the front lines and are maintenance focused. I think the value of this is that we can do the literature review. The team at Hoffman has a program called Guts that is worth exploring. And one of the plenary speakers from TRB was from Sun Construction, and he talked about this, about his approach to this. So we've got some links in there. I don't know, Peter, if you want to expand on that.
Hugely important topic. When I heard about this, I was super excited about being involved. My group within the city of Portland, we have had 3 suicides since COVID started. Close colleague, Marion County, Lonnie Radke, very involved in IT in the past. They have 150 employees overall in Marion County, 2 suicides. More focused on blue collar. I think there's a lot of stress in construction and even inspection. So hugely important. I think there is some great work out there. I don't know that the engineering community has addressed this. So that's really great that you're tackling this. I would be happy to try to connect you with resources. I've learned, of course, through dealing with this and informing coworkers and colleagues of our issues within our community. That we can talk about it a lot, but you can never really prepare someone for responding to that. And so, yeah, just can't thank you enough for choosing this topic. It's really at the forefront of my mind, and of course, at TRB, it was highlighted in the plenary session. 1,500 people in attendance. So there's a lot of people thinking about this topic. Really important for us. Thanks.
Thanks.
Nathan-
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Sarah. I was going to see if Nathan wanted to come off mute and share his question.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I have a couple questions or things for thinking of. I see that you found some compelling information about suicide. Wondering if you've been able to find or are looking for other factors that may help describe what's going on with mental health in the profession. And that's probably the main thing. I was wondering if you have put thought into that or think it might be out there.
I can maybe try to understand your question right. You're asking to see if we looked at other factors for mental health. Is that right? Is that right, Nathan?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a good way to summarize it.
Again, looking at the literature review, preliminary review, they put some good bullets out there to look at work pressure, fatigue, emotional, physical demands, bullying and harassment. That is something which I wasn't at all aware of that would be an issue. And other issues that they brought out was the lack of job security. Job security can be both in terms of regular jobs as well as seasonal workers. And finally, one other thing that was out there, again, and that helps us as employers to kind of look at identifying different people. And here, Shelley is trying to get us to know our own personalities. But another factor that was put out there was personal temperament. I mean, there are folks who are calm and quiet and who don't get excited. They are, at least look like they're less likely to have issues like this, whereas somebody who gets angry very quickly can probably shoot off. So there are some factors that are put out there that contribute towards mental health per se. The worst impacts of mental health is obviously other issues like workplace violence and sometimes leading up to things like suicide. So.
One thing that I would add to what Srini just kind of described as a potential contributing factor as to why it may be worse in the construction industry than others is the stigma around this. We've done a pretty good job in the industry about talking about physical health and making the workplace safe from injuries, accidents, and stuff like that. But there's still a very large stigma around talking about mental health challenges and getting help with that. And I think that may be worse in the construction industry, but certainly not limited to that industry.
So, Lindsay, if you want to go ahead, and then we'll read some more questions that are coming in the chat.
Sure. Great topic. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. One of the other factors that I think would be good to consider is the amount of suicides that occur on our transportation infrastructure, particularly bridges, things like that. So that is a big piece of, how can we have an impact on that? What sort of things can we implement in design and planning to help prevent that? I think that would be a great resource to provide to folks to help them just think about that as they're designing infrastructure.
Great point. Thank you.
In the chat, we have a couple of questions. Is this meant to go out to employers to get them thinking about employees' mental health?
I don't know if we thought 100% on the end user. I think we were trying to get a broad base, and as Teresa mentioned, initially it was the plenary session that brought it up in the construction industry, and that was kind of our main focus, but we didn't want to restrict ourselves exactly there. But I think we were planning on doing some either interviews or surveys of the different employers, both construction, blue collar, white collar, just to get some information there.
Yeah, maybe this is another one that's kind of food for thought. At what levels within ITE do you see focusing your project on topic? I.e., would this be sort of more focused on the, excuse me, district, section, chapter, or resource level?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we were looking at the presentation side, just speaking to our section, we have both vendors and public and private folks. So we get a good mix of everyone. So if we were to present at the section level, we'd be reaching a pretty wide audience. Same thing kind of at the district level. I'm sure it's different throughout the country, but I think we'd want to, I don't think we want to restrict ourselves to the potential audience depending on the, focus in that we go on, but I'll let other group members answer as well.
And I think that's what we're looking. We're looking for some input from you all about what makes the biggest impact for starting this discussion here. This is a big topic. Just want to take on something that is something that is a small and manageable with the time that we have, but at the same time start the conversation about this not only at the ITE level, but also getting down to the ground level so that what is biggest impact there. So we are open for suggestions on what would be the good product to serve that, and that can also be a blueprint for the next set of folks to see how they can carry it forward. So
Sarah, time.
Okay, thanks. In the right mind, there are some more questions in the chat that we'll send to the group. And we'll also have time at the end if anybody wants to stick around and talk to this group about the topic and sort of kind of work through some of the ideas.
I know you're congested, Sarah. Do you want me to talk?
Yeah, if you could go ahead.
Okay. So next up is team 2. Let's investigate the engagement. And I believe I'm handing it over to Ashley Maggio. No, that's not
Sarah
true.
will.
Sarah,
Yeah,
sorry.
Sarah's got the presentation. No problem.
There we go. We are Let's Investigate the Engagement. I'm Sarah Wickland. We have Erica Bailey, Brandon Campbell, Adam Nujumian Escajeda, and Ashley Maggio. Our idea is to develop a tool to track the engagement at the district and section levels. We came up with this idea hearing Steve and John talk about our 18,000 members, which is fantastic. But how engaged are those members? We've had conversations about how our younger member engagement could be better. We've had the recent campaign to bring more planners into the organization. How are those planners getting engaged? There's been conversations about public sector engagement versus private sector and educational professionals. We know we have the member survey, which gives our stated preference of our members, but we're hoping this engagement tracker will have the revealed preferences of what people are actually attending. We're not trying to solve the problem of how to engage people. We just want to provide the data. We want to capture the insights at the district and section levels. We're going to focus on events, in person and webinars. We want to see if different groups engage differently at different events. We want to be able to use this information to compare between the districts and the sections so they can help each other out, give each other ideas. And then we want to have an easy tool that we can start tracking the data immediately. And we think about a year's worth of data to fully start identifying the trends. We know the sections and districts hold their big meetings different times of the year. So this way we get all the different seasons, different types of events. So that way we can really see the trends across the different sections and districts. Some potential roadblocks that we've identified are possible gaps in membership profiles. We know some people put a little bit more detail into their membership profile than others. The data we collect, or the data we get, is only going to be as good as what we can collect. Trying to get the districts and sections to participate will be a little bit of work. We want to make sure that the tool is useful regardless of who's using it. And we need to figure out how much data we need to make it useful. When can we really start seeing those trends and identifying, how members are actually engaging? We want it to be the tool to be able to integrate with other district and section processes, using the registration for an event as a baseline. So that way, when we're tracking who's actually attending, we can use the registration versus having to pull in the full membership database. We're thinking our deliverable would be a mock-up of the tracker tool, some sort of survey that'll have be a quick and easy thing for either the event coordinators to fill some out, and then the members attending to fill some out. It'll be a survey with drop-down options describing the event type, technical, social, in-person, webinar, and whether the professional is a planner or an engineer or both. And also to kind of look a little bit further at the depth of the engagement is to see if the member holds an officer position at the district or section level. Where we think this could go after leadership is to look at the inclusivity of in-person events, to compare the demographics of the event back to the demographics of the section to see if certain types of events have a little bit more bias towards certain groups. We want to identify which events attract different member subsets. Do we think younger members are more likely to attend a webinar versus an in-person event? Are public agency members more likely to attend a technical or social event? But also we can use this to determine if our current engagement efforts are working. We've had the campaign to bring planners in. We can use this to see if those planners really are getting engaged. So that is our idea. If there's any questions or comments.
Thanks. Let's investigate. So the first question came in from Karen. Will you try to track the engagement of rural members / members who don't live close enough to the city where their section typically meets? For instance, tracking the participation in ITE community or viewing online webinars.
I don't know that we've discussed that, but I think, that's another attribute that we could add to the tool to see location within the section.
I would say that as we're trying to set it up, the intent would be for the leadership of any subdivision of ITE, whether it's a section or a district or a chapter, to be able to use it to draw out insights. And there may be some nuance to that they will have some knowledge of that won't be teased out in the tool that they can apply then to what they get out of it.
The next two questions are somewhat related, so I'll read them both. What start and end dates do you plan to use for data collection? And then, because your project only covers a relatively short time window, will you continue tracking for a full year to collect data beyond the short window?
I can comment on this one. We kind of talked about it as how much data would we need before we start kind of seeing trends. And we said a year's worth of data, but there's no reason why it couldn't be something that could be carried forward to subsequent years, and the data can continue to be used, continue to be tracked as, for example, as changes are made, you can reflect back to see how it's changed, how that engagement has evolved.
And I know when we were talking to the year was really for us to be able to see those trends, but we can start collecting the data from the very first meeting or event that we collect. So we'd have the purposes there.
And then from Peter, I believe establishing a baseline in this short time will be a great step for future efforts that IT staff could adopt to understand where to invest more in the future to address the disparities. And then from Rebecca, what is your plan for a platform to make this accessible? Who would have access to it?
As I say, I think we envision this as being mostly used by the district and section leadership, so they can see how their actions to engage members are, being effective. And the idea being that they could use the data just from their section if they wanted, or be able to look at other sections as well. So it could work with just their data, but having additional section district data in there as well would be helpful too.
From for me, I would be really curious because there's some people who get exactly the level of engagement that they want. They put in what they want to put in, and they get out what they want to put out, or what they get out what they want out of it. And I think knowing that, even if it's not the level of engagement maybe that district or section might expect, what I'd be most curious of is the people who would like to be more engaged and don't see a way to do that, or feel like it's not, that IT isn't really giving them exactly what they are looking for. That group, I think, is interesting to look into. I don't know how to kind of figure out the difference between those two, but I think it
I think
people with low engagement who are happy with the level of engagement they have, I guess is.
And I think part of what we were sort of hoping this would do is pull some of those people that are looking to get a little bit more engaged. If we can find, some of the spots where, we could use a little bit more engagement, that we might pull some of those people that are, don't know how to get engaged. But if using this to kind of see where we can do a little bit more outreach, and put those the availability to get engaged.
When we had these conversations in DC, it was we kind of stepped back from the focus was not to increase the engagement right away, but it was to collect the data to use that, how the districts and sections feel that they have the information and can then build on that. That would kind of be like the next phase after data collection.
I see
Question
this.
Go ahead, Carrie.
I was going to say, I think, I participated in one ITE last year, and one of the things with the planners that we were trying to come up with a way for, say, districts and sections to share like wins, things that you've done that you feel was really what worked, really upped your engagement. But the thing for me as I was going through this was like, this is a great idea, but how does a district or section track that? Like, how do we know if we really had a win other than like, yeah, I think there were some planners there, So I think this is a great tool to be able to answer those questions internally, for districts and sections to see what won, what were wins, but then also to be like, yeah, this was definitely a win, and I want to share this with other districts and sections for them to try to do the same thing. So I think it's a great idea.
Thanks.
Carrie, and from Keith, would this include some best practices for such collection and metrics for positive benefit rather than members feeling like they are being tracked?
I think so.
Yeah, I know one thing we talked about was kind of having this maybe be a way that you check into an event or something. So rather than it be oh, I have to fill out all these things. It's kind of that data is available. So once you've said, yes, I've gone to this event, it's already populated. So you're not having to answer every time, who am I? What is my designation? What is my role, etc. It's more of just yes, no, I attended, and then that data is then available already. They're engaged, they attended, kind of thing, trying to make it as simple as possible for membership.
Yeah, and I would add to that too. That kind of comes back to the quality of the data that is in the existing ITE membership database, and that being a potential area that we need to engage with the membership to make sure that their data is up to date. So there's a definite risk to the project that the quality of that, to the extent that there may be something lacking, would impact the usability of what we had in mind.
Yeah, I think some of you have seen it is from Anna Maria's recommend being conscious of inputs needed from district sections and chapters, so that this is on the user-friendly side.
I think the user-friendly is exactly what we're going for, to make sure that it gets used. If we make it too complicated, it'll fail from the beginning. So making sure that it's as easy as possible. It's a good goal of ours.
Another vote for user-friendly from Becky.
Yeah, I think we talked about trying to limit it to maybe a handful of questions. This wouldn't be an exhaustive list of every category that you fall into, but maybe a top 5 to 10, so that we're not adding work to our leadership that already does a lot.
Yeah, I'd also caution real quick just to add, sorry, we've definitely, from a section perspective, had people come through and say, please delete all of my information from every single roster you've ever had on your website, and they're trying to clean themselves from the internet. So just being cautious of maybe a way that like you can track that someone attended but not keep their information anywhere might be an alternative option, because you still want to capture that these people have come to meetings or come to events, but maybe they don't want to provide exactly who they are and want to remain anonymous. So
You try using your member number instead of your name, maybe. That's yeah. Any closing thoughts? More coming in.
Yeah, I was just going to say there are a couple of comments kind of come back to that theme of it being user friendly. And one thing that was important to us as we discussed the possibilities was to make it not only user friendly, but still useful if not everyone uses it. So we want to make sure that if districts X, Y, and Z decline to participate or have, for whatever reason, don't end up having the resources to even do something that's a fairly simple process, that it is still going to provide good insights to districts A, B, and C.
Time, Sarah.
Thanks. Let's investigate. And so there's a couple more things in the chat. And again, if anybody wants to stick around and talk at the end, there will be some time. Next up, we have Team 3, Ignite. Amy, go ahead.
Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Perfect, thank you. Get started. So I'm Amy. I am representing Team 3, or Ignite, and our motto is lighting the way for young members. So our proposed topic for our group project is investigating how we can engage younger members and increase their engagement with the existing resources During some of our preliminary research, we noted that ITE, they've made great strides in developing programs, forums, platforms, and various resources for younger members to engage with, to get them involved, to give them avenues to enter into the ITE organization. But in that research, we noticed that some of those resources have been underutilized. Here's a snapshot that we took from the young members of ITE community. And as you can see, there were some threads that had little to no engagement. So from our research, we noticed that there's a lot out there, but we want to focus on how do we drive engagement to those existing resources, and how can we support the student to professional membership pipeline as they're making that transition. So our methodology for exploring young member engagement and how to increase it is to first review existing ITE resources for younger members, reaching out to the younger member committee, understanding what some of their efforts are, what their current engagement level is, and what are some of their findings so far, and how we can assist them with gathering additional data. And then looking at the young professionals web pages, looking at some of the awards and other things that are available for incentives for younger members. Something that we also noticed and we wanted to address in our group project is how we define young member, what the designation mean and terminology. So depending on who you ask, or if you ask a younger member, it could be someone under 30, it could be someone fresh out of college, it could be someone, when you think about applying for different awards, under 35. So how do we define what a young member is? And then also there are subcategories within the younger membership, and they have unique needs versus someone entering into the profession and then someone who's probably transitioning into management, and those type of resources for them. So from there, we plan to brainstorm opportunities to increase engagement, looking at mentorship programs and how we can drive traffic towards those resources. And then also looking at barriers to participation. We've heard on a local level that some younger members may feel like they don't have the support from their companies to participate in ITE, or to get into leadership roles within the organization. How do we help them overcome those barriers and get involved in ITE? And identify other resources to get engaged with ITE. So how can we engage them at networking events, providing them the resources on the strategies to network, making sure they're aware of all of the platforms available to them to get involved, looking at technical engagement, making them aware of technical councils and committees on the district and international level, potentially having them present on different ideas that they have and contributing in that way. And then also giving them the resources and giving them the pathways to leadership within ITE. A lot of people on the local level, they want to get involved, but they don't understand the pathway to leadership within ITE, or they may seem intimidated by the process to get involved on a leadership level. So making sure they have those resources available, getting that information out to them. And then the final thing we wanted to make sure we're offering the younger members is a feedback loop where we're able to engage with them. And we can do that through young members surveys periodically, checking in, seeing what they're needing from the organization, making sure that they're aware of what's available out there, and continuously tweaking young member engagement and the resources available to make sure we're feeding the needs of those younger members. Lastly, our final deliverables for our project will be a presentation, of course, and a guidebook and an implementation plan, kind of outlining what we see as some of those engagement tools for young members. Thank you.
Ignite. We'll start with Colleen. And Colleen, if you want to elaborate on this after I read it, you can go ahead. But we have a number of strategies that we were planning for 2024 based on engagement sessions from last year and ideas that the young member committee is planning, especially around engagement and connecting to technical councils, and also creating a guidebook for young professionals to identify ways they can be involved. It will be important to incorporate these into the plan.
Yeah, and I think I'll probably wind up working with this group very closely. So I think you touch on honestly a lot of what we're planning already for 2024. So I think your mindset is in the right place. And honestly, if we can work together on actually creating and putting together some of the deliverables, I think it'll work out perfectly. So I think I look forward to working with you guys. But we do have a number of these items actually kind of geared up to go. So it'll be good to have a group to kind of work with on making them come to fruition.
Yeah, I was gonna say that Colleen has a lot of information. The younger member was something that I wanna be involved with. And last year, when I went to the district meetings, I set up meetings for the younger members. So we had that list of people that attended those meetings by district. That Colleen can provide that to you, and then some of the ideas and a pathway to leadership and other stuff that Colleen has by summary by district. So that's a good input for you to look at and start with. I'm excited to see what you come up with, the group, the deliverable, but also if you can expand that database of younger members, within our people and get, feedback from them, that will be very helpful. I mean, we met with like 10 to 12 per meeting, so maybe like 120 total at the end of the year. But so we have a good information for you to start with, but I'm really very excited to see what you produce. So any question or anything you want to ask about what went through those meetings last year, I'll be happy to meet with you at some point. So, and sorry, I was late, so I didn't saw the first group. So I apologize to the first group. I couldn't see what you presented. So thank you guys.
Go ahead, Ana Maria.
Yeah, I think this might be answered by Colleen in the younger member committee, but I noticed the conversation that was presented before us was more, it sounded like geared towards younger member professionals. So while I don't think you necessarily need to leave out students or incorporate students, either way, it probably makes sense, just defining that within your research and within your focus on whether or not it does or doesn't include students. Because I think there's also a different focus on students, that there may be some overlap, there may be some separation that needs to be done, just to clarify.
And the younger members doesn't seem like, from our conversation, they want to separate themselves from the students. I mean, the students went through a process, but when you say younger members, they are like already in the profession and contributing to the companies and stuff. So they want to make sure they're different, like there are different things for each group, although they are part of younger members. So younger members, more professional students. So that's what some students work though. So I mean, you have to like find, but like, yeah, they made that clear that they were like, they have other interests than the students. So.
Yeah.
But get with Colleen, and she have a lot of information on that already. But if you like I said, if you have any question or what we discuss in the meetings, I'll be happy to meet with you at some point.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, that was one of the things we kind of discussed while we were thinking about our ideas, was making sure we define what younger members are, what that category is, and then that's how we can kind of define what those needs are and making sure we're targeting them correctly.
So Becky has a leader, I mean, like a very interesting comment in there. So she said her group did a younger members 10 years ago project on younger members. So it will be interesting to see if we have improved or not from 10 years ago. So that will be interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, Becky, I don't know if you want to elaborate on your project.
Yeah, I was just actually trying to find it on the server. I haven't looked at it in a while. But I just pulled up the report, and yeah, we had a number of recommendations in here. And I remember one of them was the gradual increase of membership dues for young members. And that one actually got approved on the spot when we gave our final presentation. It may have been tweaked since then. Haven't compared it to exactly what we proposed, but there's a bunch of other things in here. And so if you just let me know who to send this to, I would be happy to share it. If y'all just want to see if there's things that have changed, or maybe we might spur some additional ideas.
Yes, please. We would like
Yeah.
to see it.
Yeah, just give me like an email address or something and I'll send it.
Becky, I can send you the group email.
Perfect.
That would be amazing. Thank you, Becky.
You're welcome.
That was one of the things we'd like to do as part of this project, is to look back at some of the other projects. Yours is not the only one. It's probably one of the older ones. But there were a couple more along the way that had some good ideas we want to pick up on as well.
Any other closing thoughts for Ignite? From Karen, I believe I learned recently that all of the past leadership IT reports are available online. Is this true? Can you provide the link? They are.
That is true. All the Shark Tanks are on there, as well as all the group presentations under each class.
And then from Jenny, I like that the group is referring to these members as younger and not as young. I don't think I'm that old. Yeah. Well, thanks, Ignite. Next up, we have Team 4, Leadership 101.
All right, really quickly, just confirming that you can hear me and see my screen.
Yep. Yes, we
All right.
see and we hear you.
Perfect. All right, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rachel James, and I work for the Federal Highway Administration in Washington, D.C., and I am the representative for Team 4, and the name of our project is Leadership 101. So my fellow team members are Emily with Sam Schwartz in New York, and Jana from HNTB out of Florida, and Willie from Lee Engineering out of New Mexico. And the problem that we're wanting to tackle is workforce shortages and retention issues in the transportation industry. If you go on LinkedIn within 15 minutes, you will realize just how much of a workforce shortage we're having. I'm constantly bombarded with different openings at different firms. We just don't have enough people. And so when we did our executive session at Leadership ITE with the executive director and current president, and we asked them, what are some of the issues that you're most concerned about right now for ITE? Workforce shortages was what came up. And so as we got to thinking about what's one way that ITE can tackle some of the issues with workforce shortages, we connected that with some of the insights that we received from Shelley at Leadership ITE, notably that poor management contributes to turnover. These statistics are from her opening presentation, and they were extremely eye-opening and sobering. She told us that 51% of employees are actively looking for other jobs, and that poor management is one of the most commonly cited reasons for why they're looking for other jobs. Additionally, 65% of employees would rather have a new manager than a pay raise, and 75% of employees say that their manager is the worst part of their day. And so we believe that ITE is uniquely positioned to provide leadership development opportunities to its members and improve the quality of management within the transportation industry. Another takeaway that we had from Leadership ITE is that technical skills are not management skills necessarily. Management is not just a promotion, it is a career change, even though high-performing technical staff are often those individuals that we target for management promotions. However, like I said, technical skills are not the same as management skills. Technical skills focus more on the what and the how. Management skills focus more on the who and the why. But management skills can be learned, they can be improved through training. However, when we looked at the ITE 2024 to 2026 strategic plan, we saw that technical knowledge is one of the 3 pillars that have been identified, but it does not at all mention improving members' management skills. And so we think that that could inadvertently be contributing to that management skills gap that we're learning about through Leadership ITE. And so our proposed solution is an introduction to leadership program, or Leadership 101. What we are wanting to do is Leadership ITE is a phenomenal program. We've only been through one 2-day session, and it's already completely changed the way that I think about things. However, it does require a significant time commitment and a financial commitment to get to participate. And so we were thinking, is there a way to reduce the amount of time, condense some of the materials, and make it accessible for all? And our solution is a management series that's tackling management skills topics. So our deliverables, we're thinking, would include the curriculum for what this Leadership 101 program could look like, a business model for how we sustain the webinar series through the Leadership ITE structure, as well as a sample lesson plan. So what's the learning objectives? What are sample books that we could potentially cite in this in these different topics, as well as what's an example facilitated activity that we could walk members through in our webinar series. The expected outcomes of Leadership 101 are to emphasize the value of the Leadership ITE program. We think this is an awesome opportunity to showcase how phenomenal Leadership ITE is, and hopefully by whetting people's appetites and just helping them to understand how important these skill sets are, it will increase the pipeline of members that are interested in participating in the program in the future. And it's also an opportunity to address the management skills gap. It's an opportunity for us to highlight the difference between technical skills and management skills, as well as to provide training opportunities to build some of those core management competencies. So this is not trying to replace Leadership ITE. It is trying to help provide just whet people's appetite, like I said, into how important these skill sets are. We also think that there are connections to the Professional Development Committee. They have also identified this as an opportunity to increase ITE's values to its members. And we've already spoken with Keith Hall and think that there's an opportunity for us to contribute to what they're doing, not duplicate. But there's also an opportunity to connect with the Leadership ITE Committee, potentially an opportunity for previous grads to showcase and share their skills with others. So at this point, I apologize for my cat who really wants to participate in this presentation, if you could hear her, and I'll turn it over for questions.
I'll jump in with one, if that's all right.
Go ahead, Lindsay.
Thanks. So this topic actually aligns with one of the topics that for those who don't know me, Lindsay Van Paris. I'm the chair of the council leadership team, and this year we did a kind of a brainstorming session around developing trends, and one of the topics is around workforce. So I would love to get more of a statement than a question, but I would love to get your group in contact with the lead of the developing trend kind of workforce and for workforce development, and get you guys connected. I think you could do a lot together.
Thanks, Lindsay. And a question from Steve, because the universe of management / leadership issues is pretty broad, are there specific subcategories or issues that you could focus on and peel an extra layer of the onion back?
I think that the ed team, don't let me speak for you all, but I think that that's the intent of our deliverables, is to really dig into the curriculum and come up with a list of topics that we think are important to tackle here. And while we're not committing ourselves to come up with a lesson plan for every single one of those topics, because I think that that's too big of a problem for us to tackle between now and graduation, we are committed to taking one of those topics and digging in. So developing the specific lesson plan to, as you say, peel back the onion and provide an example of how others could do that in the future if another committee wants to take this on and sustain it. I know.
To add to Rachel's point here, the initial thought that the group had was to create some sort of a repository or a resource for leadership related books or resources that either the ITE committees could look back at, or if anybody who reaches out to one of these committees to see if there was any material available, then this could be pointed out as a resource or a inventory of sorts.
Shelley, go ahead.
Well, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't speak up and say good for you. And I'd be happy to serve as a resource for your team as you all pursue this. You've got a lot here.
Thank you, Shelley.
Oh yeah, a question. Do you see this as like a prequel to Leadership ITE, or one where it is like the if you were to do Leadership 101, that some of the Leadership ITE topics would be kind of revisited and expanded upon, or it would be totally separate?
Our goal is to kind of lead people towards Leadership ITE. It's to kind of give a taste or understanding of how important these skills are. So that's exactly why we want to put together resources, but not overlap with any of the material that Shelley has or the Leadership ITE tries to focus on. This is a stepping stone to Leadership ITE.
One more question. Do you see it as like individual little bites that you could get one at a time, or something that you would kind of commit to like 4 or 5 sessions, or something so you would get like a full range?
I think it would be up to members to decide. Like we wouldn't be asking people to commit to the full program. It would very much be a function of their availability and the skills that they're interested in growing based on their experiences working in the field. So it could be a one-off, or we could have people that are interested in attending all. I think it's up to the member to decide what skill sets they think are most valuable for them to develop.
I think it could be a webinar series. It'd be a really great webinar series.
Agree. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, and I think coordinating with Lindsay would really be great.
Go ahead.
Me? So I was thinking about, you could set this up in a way that it could be applicable at the section or district level, if you could can it in a way that it could trickle down there as well. Maybe webinar series is the best way to do it, but just something to think about.
Sure.
Beth.
There's not a question related to this, but I did want to speak on it. I just recently had a section meeting where they wanted to get my input in terms of what Leadership IT was all about, because they obviously partnered in sending me to the program. And I gave probably maybe a 2-minute speech about it, and they became instantly interested. And they want me to give a longer presentation on what Leadership IT is all about in the next meeting. So I think that's the whole idea of what we want to accomplish here in the end, as Rachel had said, and webinar series, obviously that came to mind, and I'm glad that was brought up, because it gives, there's so many people, even at the higher levels of the section, that don't know what Leadership IT is, or what we're being taught. I also know that when Shelley started doing her program, that the whole emphasis changed, because the people that I know in my company that were part of Leadership IT are pretty impressed with the exposure that I've had just even in one session. So it's something we've got to get the word out, and I think that's what we're trying to do, is get the word out and just give them a taste.
We spent years combating the perception that Leadership ITE was for young people. So I think this is a really great way to say, no, it's for leaders, it's for managers, it's for anyone at that level in their career. So I put a note in there that once you clarified what you want to do versus Leadership ITE, I really think it's brilliant.
Lindsay, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a comment that kind of builds on the district sections and chapters, not just for this group, but for all the groups. So having better alignment with the district sections and chapters is part of IT strategic vision. And so I think looking at how you are planning to get your products out there, or whatever the deliverable is that you're working on, how do you get it out to the district sections and chapters? Please keep that in your mind, and we are open to suggestions on that. Same with getting international perspectives included into your products. For all the groups, I'd like to see maybe some of the research expand beyond the US and looking into Canada, Australia, New Zealand. The workforce is a big thing. Well, all of mental health, all of it is. I know that might be out of the scope of how much time you guys have, but we do have members from the different countries that I'm sure would be willing to jump in and help as well. Give you data or statistics as it relates to other countries. And I apologize, I do have to drop off for a 1 o'clock project meeting. But I look forward to, if you can share the slides after, I would love to see the other presentations as well.
Great. If we will make the recording available too. But yep, thank you. Any other closing thoughts for this project? Okay. If not, then we'll jump right into Team 5, STEM Marketeers.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. At least it's good afternoon where I am. My name is Hannah Landvader, and I'm the one speaking today on behalf of STEM Marketeers. This is our group. I have Jenny, Brian, and Ravely. Jenny is with New York State Department of Transportation. Ravely is with WGI, and Brian is with MAR Traffic. As part of this slide, we've outlined some things that we've done in STEM, specifically STEM in the K through 12 range, working with girls camps and Girl Scout troops and school days and things along those nature, which really led our group to narrow in on workforce development, but from a K through 12 perspective. So much like group 4, we heard that topic of conversation, that we have a lack of new transportation professionals. And for us, what we took that to do is to work with STEM in the K through 12 range as our group project. We took our goals from the STEM committee for ITE, because we felt that it was important that our project goals align with the goals that ITE already has developed. So we chose 3 of the goals from the STEM committee that dovetail with our 3 project ideas. So what we do have are 3 ideas today that we're looking to get some feedback on what would be the best benefit for ITE as part of our group project. So you can see the goals that we have listed here are organize, support, and share information about STEM outreach activities, share best practices and lessons learned for K through 12, and to develop transportation-related STEM outreach activities and materials. So to get right into it, and our 3 project ideas, we sort of have them laid out in the way they were developed or came to us. So it started out as a conversation on a marketing campaign to educators. So how to drive traffic to ITE's STEM activities website for more than just ITE members, but for our educators and scout leaders and people that are quote unquote boots on the ground with our K through 12 population on how do we get these activities in their hands. So that was sort of our first idea. And then what came out of that was a conversation about the STEM committee and the STEM activity website page, and how we thought that maybe it was in need of a little bit of an update. It is very static right now. So what I mean by that is the activities are listed there by age group, but don't have any sort of feedback loop, ability or way to post pictures. So you can see there's some pictures on this slide from our different uses of those activities. and suggesting an update to the website to be, a little bit more interactive would also help educators and ITE members to pick activities that work the best for the age group that they're working at, even within the larger, elementary school, middle school, high school brackets, to sort of even narrow down. I tried this activity with 8th graders and it was, maybe a little too easy, or I tried it with 6th graders and it was too hard, etc. And then what happened after that was then we had this third idea, which right now is our group's sort of favorite, which is a marketing campaign to create new activities, and opening this up to K through 12 students and educators and others to create new activities that are sort of on the leading edge of growing technology. So giving students and teachers an opportunity to propose activities that they think they'd actually get engagement for, whether it be related to AI or 3D printing or anything like that, that would just give students the opportunity to use this new technology in a way to show them that it's something that they can do, in this field later in their life. So those are our 3 ideas. Thank you for your time, and we're looking forward to answering your questions and getting feedback from you.
Sorry, I know you spoke a little bit with Anna Maria before the Shark Tank, and she's part of the STEM committee. Did you gain any insights and sort of any feedback from that conversation since Anna Maria left that you might want to add into this discussion?
A little bit. I also did forget to mention that Ravali, one of our group members, is on the STEM committee as well. So she was able to help us sort of, talk through some things that they might be looking at doing as well. And not right before this meeting, but when we were meeting in DC, Anna Marie did give us some helpful kind of suggestions, and that we were sort of on the right track on, at that point we didn't have the third one yet. So we just had the first 2 at that point.
I'll open it up the floor to anybody if anyone else has questions. From Ben, my vote is for the third idea, marketing campaign to create new activities. Seems like this is a good chunk of work that could be completed in the timeline of your project and also would make a big impact. Ben, I don't know if you want to expand on that at all, or.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think that marketing campaign and developing some new tools would be great. I think we've done a great job with Karen Asplin's lead, creating some great tools, but to expand upon that, I think would be really valuable. And it seems like it's a discrete task that you guys could tackle. I think the second one was on the website, and I think ITE is already working on a website update, so it may be that this may be something they might consider to incorporate into that. But yeah, that's just my input there.
There's been a comment from Karen. I think all 3 of your ideas are great. The new activities would be my vote. We especially need more activities for older students. Karen, is that like high school or like, 11th, 12th grade?
I would say high school in general. A lot of, and maybe that's just the groups I see people posting pictures of. For instance, on the left there, most of the outreach I've seen happening is done at the younger levels, which is great, but I'm wondering if it's because we don't have as many activities for the older kids, or if they take too long, or what it is. But I think just going through the activities and seeing kind of what's missing is a good idea.
Yeah,
Kathy
Karen.
posted. Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, I was just going to say that, yeah, I agree with specifically trying to incorporate newer technologies and AI and the such, that it probably would need to be the older high school students.
Rebecca, go ahead.
Yes. So to Karen's point about like some of these pictures and stuff being related more to younger kids, I think we've had a better opportunity to get an audience with some of the younger kids. So I think some marketing effort towards the older kids would certainly be helpful. But if we're going to start marketing them, we need to have the resources first. So I kind of agree that it would be better to have more activities for them to do and then try to find a way to get them to do those activities. So if it can be a two-part project, that would be great.
Thanks, Rebecca. Thoughts from the team? There's a comment too. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, this is Jenny here, I'm part of the group. I agree with focusing on high school students because there's a growing need for STEM workers currently, and in the future we will have the same need. Also, STEM skills will make them more marketable. That's just my 2 cents, yeah. So it makes sense. Thank you for the feedback.
Couple of comments from Kathy. Kathy will be the staff liaison since I am STEM liaison as well. We also have 2 other people on Shark Tank, Karen Asplin and Rebecca Brown, who both serve on the current STEM committee. And then from Matt, for the team, John Davis and I did put together a number of transportation STEM activities for a large Scout International Jamboree in 2019 and can share those activities to be included if you want. Age group was 13 to 18.
Sarah, if I could just add that some of the feedback that I've gotten from local schools here is for high school students, the hands-on is great, but they also like hearing from people working in the industry and just the different career choices that transportation offers, so the exposure. So that's something that we'll definitely be considering as an aspect. If number 3 is sort of, let's say, the voter's choice that we end up going with.
From Rachel, option 1, check out teachers pay teachers as a way to get the lesson plans into educators' hands. Go to where the teachers find their materials instead of hoping teachers will find resources on ITE's website when they may not know IT exists. So thanks, Rachel. I didn't know about that website. And any other closing thoughts? We still have a few more minutes, I think. If anybody else wants to chime in on any one of the 3 ideas.
I have a question. So we could incorporate arts. Do you recommend that we do, or do we stick with the science, technology, engineering, and math?
I'm going to pop in on this one, Jenny. This last year, the STEM committee did definitely make a decision that they are going to go STEAM. So we kind of do STEM/STEAM. So we are definitely incorporating that into some of our programming.
Perfect, thank you.
I was gonna say, personally, I think that STEAM is there's so much creativity in transportation that I don't think is really talked about a whole lot. You don't really think of it very much as a numbers and spreadsheets and rules, that it's not so much about being creative. So I think that adding in the art piece and the creativity piece of transportation is an interesting way to look at it. It kind of broadens the group of people who might be interested if they know that that's an option. So. And from Peter, my youngest kid wants to be an art major in college. If you include art, I will ever forever thank you. Any closing thoughts for Team 5, STEM Marketeers? One more, check out summer camps as a target audience. Growing up, I did a West Virginia Governor's School for Math and Science in 8th grade and Governor's Honors Academy as a junior. I feel like these activities would be great for both of those audiences. Other states may offer similar programs. And from Matt, link to the transportation curriculum that I mentioned. Thank you very much, Matt. So you have that available to you. Thank you, STEM Marketeers. Thanks to all of our teams. This is just the beginning of the discussion, and so feel free, if you, for the sharks out there, if you would like to contact any of the teams, you can go through Kathy, you can go through me, we can put you in contact with any of the teams. If you would like to stick around for the debrief part, you're welcome to stick around for a few minutes and we can put you in a breakout room with the team to kind of talk through some of the ideas that we heard today and then sort of grow these ideas for the next 6, 7 months. We're very excited for these projects, hearing how they've changed just in the last couple of weeks until now. It's I'm very excited about all 5 projects and what we're going to see in July. So with that, thank you very much. Any other, I see some closing thoughts coming in from Rosanna and Beverly. Yeah, well done, everyone. And any closing thoughts on all the projects or any other questions that you didn't get to ask and would like to ask now? We're open. We can spend a few minutes talking through everything, or if you want to get back to your work or head on home, we'll be wrapping up here. Okay. Thank you very much, Sharks, for joining in. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat as we go. When the next deliverable is for this project? Okay, so the questions for the team, I'll wait until all the sharks are off to answer some of those questions. Yeah. And then if you are going to stick around